want to talk to you today about resonating Tesla coils. I've seen a lot of channels out there try to take a Tesla coil and take another Tesla coil that looks exactly the same and try to wirelessly resonate them together. I can tell you it won't work. They're missing something in their whole calculations in the way that they understood resonance and how it works in your system. So let's first correct what we misunderstood in the beginning. Then let's get a secondary to light up by itself. Now, here's what they're missing. You have a value for a number 2 coil. So we'll just draw one. That's our number 2 coil. Say it's 325 kilohertz, right? So you're going to say, normally most people would go, well, I'm just going to build another one exactly the same and it should resonate. Well, what are you missing? Every time a Tesla coil is set into resonance, there's 2 systems operating, not just one. There's your number 2 coil. You did not account for your number 1 coil. You see, Tesla coils are funny. You stand next to a Tesla coil, your body capacitance changes the coil. You put something next to the coil, it'll change the capacitance of the coil. You attach a top load to that coil, it changes the capacitance of the coil. You have to understand that. As soon as you put on your number 1 coil, you have changed this number. This number is no longer the same. When in oscillation between this right here and this right here, this number changes. This number most likely is right there. Because as the number 1 oscillates to the number 2, this is the number in oscillation. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but it's a very easy concept to understand. The true value of a coil is what it is in oscillation. How you tune it, how perfectly you get it to oscillate matters. If you use a Slayer exciter, it is a self-correcting circuit or a forced resonance circuit. It will oscillate at its best value every time. This is the one you want to use when you do this kind of experiment. You can use a ZVS and you can tune it to a very specific frequency if you know the value of a number 2 coil sitting across the room. I've done that, that's not a problem. But if you want the true resonance in your coil, use a Slayer exciter. Now, this is it in oscillation. So what does that mean? It means my number 2 coil sitting over here is not going to be this number here. It's going to be this number here. Now, what does that mean? I don't have anything attached to this. This is just a number 2 coil. This is a number 1 and 2 coil. This is my driving circuit. This is my receiving coil right here, a receiving circuit. Now, anything that you put around this, it's going to change the value a little bit. When you put your light bulb right here, the value itself will change very slightly. If you attach anything to this number 2 coil, a capacitor, extra wire, anything, it will change the value in this coil. Watch what you do. Build this, oscillate this, then build this. You will set this up to be right if you do it in that manner. Slayer exciter, perfect oscillation every time. Gives you an easy set point to start from. You go from what you calculated your coil to be to what it actually is. Now, when this resonates this, depending on the amount of perfection you get in your resonance equals the distance that you're going to get from your driving circuit to your secondary, put it out there in the middle of nowhere. Now, if it's mid-range, I can get 5 feet. If I set it in perfect oscillation and hit the exact number here, I can get 10 feet. Completely wireless to each other where this one turns this on. Can you get it to jump between 3 extra coils? The answer is yes. If I took this secondary here, but I wanted another one here, and I got another one here, and another one here, I can literally direct the resonance from here to here to here to here. This value will go for all of these coils. Now they are resonant to each other when this is my driving circuit. I can now run all of these and turn on the lights next to every single one of them. Resonance is about 2 frequencies oscillating together. You have to understand that in doing this. So let's look at a tuning fork and how it works so that we understand this a little bit better. I'm going to draw this tuning fork sideways. As you do this, what's going on here? These things go like this. You would think it would go like this, and then we would mirror it, right? Well, that's how most people think this things work. It doesn't. It works like this. It does this, then they both push out. So your signal comes like this and like this. So as it does, it's literally making packets. That's what happens in a tuning fork. You can watch it in slow motion. It forces in, it forces out. It forces in, it forces out. You have an impulse and you have I call it an explosion. Explosion's here, goes big, goes inside, so it's an impulse. So you have a pulse and an impulse going on in your tuning fork right there. It's going to be the same in your Tesla coil. So as you set up this Tesla coil, you're going to have a pulse, but then on the inside, you're going to have an impulse. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Let's take a look. If you took your oscilloscope and you wanted to see the frequency in your coil, let's draw this a little bit bigger. So you got your number 2 and you got your number 1. When you put this thing in oscillation, we all see frequency a little different, so I'm just going to draw it so you can understand it. Not necessarily exactly the way it goes. If I have one that's out here, I have another one in here. Now they don't line up exactly the same until you put them in perfect resonance. Then they will. So now they'll mirror each other and go like this. Now you can continue this down and go like this. This is your sine wave. But this is your sine wave in resonance. The inside of the coil will match the outside of the coil every time you do it. Therefore, you have more power on the inside. This is how you find it. You know that you're resonating the outside. Again, that's not the exact way it looks, but to get you to understand the concept, that's the way I drew it. Now, just fix this. Since we know we have a field going here, and we know the field is equal in the inside, what am I doing to the inside? Well, if I put something down the center like a rod, I'm now going to deal with compression of that field. I don't have the distance out here I would in my Tesla coil. I have a very short distance, so I'm going to compress this. When you compress this field, it changes. Had a discussion with somebody about radiation, and if there's radiation coming off your Tesla coil. Well, in any high voltage there is, it doesn't matter what it's like. If you're getting a 4-inch spark, you're getting some form of radiation. Now, whether it's harmful or not is what you got to look at. You say, well, how do you know you're getting any form of radiation whatsoever? Well, I call it radiant, the lower form of radiation, because when you compress something, it changes. So if I sit here and go, okay, I know this is happening, I'm just going to take a glass tube and I'm going to put gas in there or leave it empty and compress it in here with a vacuum. What happens to my electricity now? Well, I've now created an X-ray. As soon as I get high voltage in it, the compression value now created an X-ray. Well, an X-ray last time I checked was radiation. We're creating radiation. As soon as we take high voltage and we put it into a tube like this, we are now getting X-rays out of it. What is the one force that I'm doing here? I'm compressing it. I'm forcing it to push itself into a space it does not want to be. When you do that, it goes from building in like this to pushing itself out. We know how radiation works. You take the demon core, it's open. Okay, it's back to the Manhattan Project. As soon as they closed the top, what happened? The field went everywhere and it killed people. Why? Because this stuff does not like to be forced together. It builds out a bigger field from it. As soon as you took this tube here, you've compressed it and created radiation. This is how I know right here I'm compressing it. Now I'm not in radiation levels in my Tesla coil right here, not at all. So please don't misunderstand this. I call it radiant because it's the lower form. It is not yet radiation, but it's putting out a radiant field. It'll give you a suntan, no problem. Now that we understand that, we can also understand this. I now can change the value of this coil again. You see, as soon as I added the rod down the center, I've lowered the value of this Tesla coil. Why? Because I interrupted the oscillation of the coil itself. I gave it extra capacitance. I gave it a rod down the center. I just changed the value of this coil. Here's the tricky part. Did you change the complete value by putting it all the way down? Did you put it off at this level? Without this, and did you only change this part here? Funny thing about a Slayer exciter is it's self-correcting. This value may be 1. This value may be completely different in a Slayer exciter. When you put this rod down the center at this level, you're playing with the coil. You're playing with how much value it has. What does that mean? Anytime you hear a Tesla go out there and say he's taking his copper and he's weighing it, because he's calculating how much he's going to put through it. That also means when you take your top load and add it, if you put a rod down the center and add it, you're changing your coil completely. Your coil has now a different resonance value. You have to compensate for it every time. A lot of experiments in Tesla coils to try to do what Tesla did comes down to this. Did you correctly put in the correct capacitance? Now we can all do math and numbers, but did you play with it enough to see what changes it? Did you know that putting something down the center changes the value of it? Did you know that by putting a top load on it, it changed the value of it? Did you understand you're oscillating between two parts just like a tuning fork? You're always creating packets out of it. This is where Bedini said you put the information in. Pretty interesting, right? Resonance information, put it in packets, calculating values. I've taken Tesla coils and lit them up across the room. I can do it wirelessly. I can hook both of them into ground and use the ground as my resonance point, because resonance travels through things. Once you resonate your first coil as your driving coil, you can turn other coils on. You can simply hook them to the ground and they'll work if they're close to the same value. A lot of people don't understand this. They build them completely the same and try to get it to start, and it won't. There's got to be a receiving coil and there's got to be a driving circuit. Once you understand this, it becomes easy. You get into body capacitance. I've had coils where they're not exactly correct on the number 2 coil, and the driving coil set to one thing. You go by to the number 2 coil and you touch it. Your body capacitance changed it. Therefore, if I wanted to light up the hallway and I wanted it to come on only when I walk by it and use my body capacitance as something to turn it on, could I do it? Well, the answer is yes. As long as I have a driving coil set up somewhere in that hallway, and then I put secondaries out there with the light bulb already next to it, all I have to do is set it to be slightly out of the correct value. Then my body capacitance will turn it on just by me being there. Interesting trick, isn't it? It's all about how you understand resonance. Can you get past the fact that that's not going to be the right answer on your number 2 coil when you set it up? If you can, this is going to be easy. If you can understand putting a rod down, it changes the value. If you understand putting a top load on, it changes the value. Now you can go and start to adjust everything else. What does that mean for the pickup coil? Well, maybe that pickup coil, maybe it's just out of value a little bit. Maybe you just need a capacitor attached to it. Maybe that's it, and it'll turn right on. You could put the capacitor to the coil itself, number 2, then attach it to a razor blade and get the power out of the razor blade. Pretty simple, right? Not exactly. When you change that razor blade out for a big piece of chunk of iron, you can get a lot more amps out of it now. Why? Because you're changing what's coming out of it now. That's a whole different subject in itself to a Tesla coil. Can I convert to volts and amps from it? How do I do it? Well, it's based on a DC system, so you just have to understand the DC scaling and you can take care of it. What you put down your Tesla coil changes the value. It lowers the frequency. If you understood your DC system, you will understand this. If I take my coil and I have nothing in it, (275 kilohertz is what I'm resonating at. I stick a piece of wood right here. I just lowered this. And in any DC system, when I lower this number, I am dropping my volts and I'm bringing up my amps. Therefore, you're going to change the level of this coil as soon as you put that piece of wood down it. It doesn't have to be anything special, just a piece of wood. You see, it has to do with how it's resonating and how fast it's resonating. You've now created an impedance in that coil by putting that wood down there. You've now changed the value of that coil and you slowed it down. When you slowed it down, frequency is just distance over time. You go like this distance, how long does it take to cover this distance? Frequency equals 1 over time. How long does it take to traverse this distance? That's all it is. Well, now that I put this in here, I created impedance. Once I created impedance, I changed the value. What happens here? Instead of this being sparky coming out this coil, I can now change it to get what would look like a spark gap right here, and there's going to be a lot of white in it. That white is your amps. So if I wanted to adjust this, it's not really a problem. We can look at Wardenclyffe, and there's several different ways to look at it. Does it have a rod down the center? Does it not? You know what? We all don't know because somebody tore it down. Some morons thought it was a good idea to tear it down. Anyway, here's the thing. If I'm collecting things in my top, I bring it down with a piece of wood. I now wrap my coil here around that piece of wood. If I'm pulling it in here like a Corona motor, and I'm simply driving this, we'll call this the earth right here, and I have a rod down it, I simply need to do the capacitance here. Once you do this piece of wood right here just now changed your value in this coil. This capacitance right here will adjust the amp level. Two plates going closer and further apart creates capacitance. You're going to be able to change the level of amps and volts in your system on that. Also, we knew that we took this high voltage here and we simply lowered it right here. We lowered our volts and we brought our amps up. Now we're here in coupled capacitance. This right here will also change the levels. Where do you want to go? You want more amps so that you can use this? Not a problem. All you have to do is take these two plates and adjust them inward. Bring the field together. It'll change the value of it. We can get more amps out of it. Now the unusable energy that comes out as a volt, we can now change to an amp, because essentially it's a DC system that we're working with. It's actually crystal that creates the energy, but it's like a DC system. Therefore, we can correct it like a DC system does. Now we can take this. If this is all it is, it's not a problem. If for those people out there, you put a rod down here and you put it into the water table, now all of this energy goes straight down here. You capacitance level, change it, all that goes down here. It now comes out as a field. And I can pull off Tesla's greatest trick of taking my ground and putting my light bulb directly into the ground. Why? Because it now activated the water table. The water table is now right here. And it's now putting off energy. That's how that works. Now you could say, well, it may not be a rod down the center. Maybe it's the grounding rod that you're looking at. If that's in the water table and you're running a capacitor right here, I guarantee you it's in the water table. Right there. It's going to do this. Whether you wanted it to or not, it will do this. And it will be able to light up a light bulb. It all depends on how you understand this. A lot of people get screwed up with geometry. They don't understand capacitance in geometry. We always look at things in 2D, and that's why. When you get to 3D, they're completely lost. If I told you this is a capacitor, all I'm doing is changing the distance here from the distance here. That's your capacitance value. What's the difference between doing it here? All I did was take this as a simple 2D image and I put it in 3D by taking a sphere, right here, or just a circle, I should say. You take a circle and then you put it down the center of the circle. I'm just changing the capacitance there. I'm changing how it works. What happens is, when you start doing this, you are converting this field. One thing people do not understand about conversion of fields is this. You have a hairpin circuit in Tesla. You have his regular Tesla coil. The regular Tesla coil will shock you. As soon as you put it in a hairpin circuit, it changes the energy, right? We put it in what we call a cold energy state. You are changing it based on this in that circuit. This is your whole thing right here. This whole thing is that circuit. Right there, that's your hairpin circuit. You can forget all the rest of the parts. That's the culprit. 100% that's your culprit. So when you do this, it's the same thing, you're just changing geometries. Now, I can run this into my water table. It'll now do this, and through the ground it'll light up my light bulb. This is also an experiment that I have proven and done. When you can excite water like this, it's not a problem. I can make mud conductive at 3 feet just by using this rod right here and putting it in the mud. I could put it in the water and make it conductive. Most of it has to do with the minerals that are around it. Anytime you have sand, which sand has quartz, quartz activates and continues the field and helps it build out energy. I hope you guys understand. I have taken this Tesla coil and turned it inside out and figured out just about everything there is to it. The next set of testing is going from a standard Tesla coil to a geometry driven Tesla coil. You're going to get more energy based on the design that you make. Some people out there argue with this. They think that you can't get more energy, but it's false. Based on your geometry, you can get a lot more energy. As a matter of fact, you can start pulling energy from the room if you build your Tesla coil correctly. In a geometry Tesla coil, which is basically you could create a sphere, you're changing the entire way the energy goes. You're starting out with the hairpin circuit understanding. You have it in this different geometry. The field has already flipped. Now what happens? Now you can take a spool of wire and pull energy directly from it when you put it next to your Tesla coil, it'll push the energy to the Tesla coil. Every time. Not this way, the way it's conventionally done. It's not grounding it out, it's pulling it towards it. But what is that spool of wire doing? It's not a ground. It's just sitting there. It's pulling the energy from the air itself. The energy all around us. The things that light up everything in the room, the thing that lights up when the sun's out. All that energy right there can be pulled into that spool of wire. We haven't even gone to the fact of resonating that wire or putting it in a value where it should pull harder. All you did was put it there and change the geometry in your Tesla coil. It's mind-blowing what you could do with resonance if you can get past the simple steps of it. Do you understand that your Tesla coil is different in oscillation than it is just by the number 2 coil? It's step 1. Once you get to where I'm at, you're going to be able to take geometry into your Tesla coil and pull energy from everywhere. We are going to create a whole new world with this. What starts out as a simple understanding is going to grow into a gigantic thing. Resonance has always been the answer. It's always been where the energy is. It's an energy multiplier if you do it right. I hope everybody gets where we're going with this. These Tesla coils, they're not sparklers. I have no desire to make a sparkler. I want to play with the resonance in every single coil in order to produce energy, in order to flip fields, in order to make us understand what our world actually does. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day, and we'll get into this subject again a little more later.
The old man built. The old man built. The old man built. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to instead. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.